let me talk to you about why I believe child abuse causes codependency. Now, I define child abuse very, very loosely. I believe child abuse is any interaction between a child and a major caregiver that is less than nurturing of the child. Children need to be living in a nurturing environment in order to grow up, develop, and thrive. If they don't have an environment that is nurturing, they can't do the business of growing up, and that's why I believe there is so much codependency in this culture. When I talk to people about what child abuse is, I actually attack the problem from about four different viewpoints. And the reason why I do that is this. We are an anti-child culture. We treat our children like we wouldn't treat another adult. And we deny the facts of it. And it takes a lot of information to break through people's denial system about what child abuse is. So when I go after this particular issue, I go after it in four different directions. The first way I attack the problem is I describe it in terms of what actually happens. Physical abuse, sexual abuse, intellectual abuse, emotional abuse, spiritual abuse. And I describe what that activity means so they can get a picture of what I mean. Physical abuse simply is about not treating a child's body respectfully. Second kind of abuse I talk about is sexual abuse. There's lots of different kinds of sexual abuse. I don't want to go into the details of all the ways a person can sexually abuse a child, but there are many, including verbal sexual abuse, including not giving them enough information about their own sexual development, including giving them skewed information about sex, including giving them too much, too early, too soon. It also involves not demonstrating sexual boundaries with the child. Another form of abuse is intellectual abuse, where a child's ability to think is attacked. They are told they're stupid, or they're a moron, or they can't think, or their ideas are silly, and that the parent themselves don't want to hear about that. Emotional abuse really involves demanding perfection from a child, over-controlling a child, screaming at a child, name-calling. I believe spiritual abuse happens whenever a major caregiver demands that they are the higher power of the child and they can do whatever they darn well want to do to the kid. Now you can see the concept of abuse is expanding. In this culture, the only thing we really call abuse is direct penetrating sexual abuse and beatings that are so severe that you can see the bruises and the welts and the lacerations and the damage. But you know, a child can be very damaged through the shaming process to be belted across the face, and nothing shows, but it is abusive. Another way I talk about abuse is talk about covert versus overt abuse. Overt abuse is right out in the open that everybody can recognize. This is about the only way we really accept what child abuse is. But the majority of even the overt abuse still is essentially ignored because there's an attitude in this culture that children are wrong. That children are wrong. That something's wrong with them because an adult is distressed around the child. Covert abuse is very hidden and very widespread. The thing about covert abuse is that most of this is considered normal in this culture. It may be normal, but it is dysfunctional. Normal just means what most of us are doing. Just because most of us are doing it doesn't mean it's functional. Functional means that it promotes somebody's health and well-being. Dysfunctional does the opposite. There are many things that most of us are doing that aren't appropriate. We call it normal, but it doesn't mean that it's functional, nor that we should be doing it. And there's a lot of child abuse that falls in that category. The third way I describe child abuse is to talk about it in terms of it being disempowering or empowering. Disempowering type of child abuse shames the child and gives the child inappropriately, and gives the child the message that there's something wrong with them. That's disempowering abuse, and it involves inordinate shaming of a child. Empowering child abuse does the very opposite, and most of empowering type of child abuse is hidden or covert and absolutely not recognized in this culture. What's empowerment of a child? It means giving the child a false sense of power or esteem. telling the child that they are better than in some way. The primary way this type of abuse happens in this culture is through what we call emotional sexual abuse, where a child is told that they're better than the other parent and used in some way to take care of the family and told that they are better than other people because they are so competent. It gives the child a false sense of power and elevates them into the offender position in life. It's very, very abusive because it sets the child up to be an offender and think that they're better than. Another way a child might be empowered is to be told that they're better than other people because they're black, because they're white, because they're Jewish, because they're Gentile, because they're Catholic, because they're rich, because they live in the right neighborhood, or because their grandfather was real important. That's all empowering kind of abuse. Again, it is hidden. It isn't even considered dysfunctional in this culture, and it's very dysfunctional, very inappropriate, and sets the child up to be an offender in their life. The fourth way I talk about child abuse is to describe parenting styles. Now, this usually rounds it out and gets everybody's attention. This generally describes what the parent is doing. That is dysfunctional. So I talk about styles of parenting that involve, number one, ignoring, neglecting, or abandoning the child. A second parenting style I talk about is a style that attacks and is hypercritical of the child. There's a direct frontal assault on the child. The third kind of abuse is the type of abusive parenting style is the parenting style that uses the child. Emotional sexual abuse of a child is an example of this kind of parenting style. What generally happens is the child is either used to take care of another sibling or another parent, or the parent who is who is telling the child that they are wonderful. Anyway, the child gets used to take care of the parents or siblings or the family. Sometimes this is the only way some codependents ever get esteem. And they got esteem as a child by being such caretakers of the family. That's how they got their power. The fourth kind of parenting style I talk about is the parenting style that invites the child to fail. And in this type of parenting style, the message from the parent to the child is the world out there is scary. And in addition to that, you are not up to going out there and making your way. When a child has enough of it, when they have when they've been subjected to a lot of that kind of parenting, most of them never make it out of their family system. They're the kind of kids that live with their mom and dad forever. They might get married when they're 40. If mom dies, they get married. That sort of thing. It's a very, very severe form of child abuse. And you do know the reality of how you were abused as a child because everybody knows. Unless you've had major brain damage, it is held at minimum in your unconscious mind, and you know. And that's the reality you're really blocking out. And the reality of who your parents really were. And the reality that you never got a childhood. And that you never got helped into being an adult. That's the reality we all blot out. And again, any addictions will do.